I could destroy you.
I'm counting on it.
Hajun has Issa pinned against the marble counter, her legs wrapped around his waist. "You're a fucking liar," he breathes against her mouth. She bites his lip, drawing blood. "So are you." Their foreheads pressed together, trembling. I could destroy you, he whispers. Her hand slides up his tattooed neck. "I'm counting on it." She kisses him like it's war. He groans, gripping her thighs harder. "This will ruin us both." She grabs his face, eyes blazing. "I don't beg. I take what's mine." His eyes darken. "Then take it, Isadora. Take everything." Lovies, Happy New Year, and welcome home to Afro-Seoul TV. What better way to start 2026 than with a story that's going to have you screaming at your screen? Between two worlds, beyond all borders, we're kicking off this new year with a tearjerker, heartbreaker, and game changer that'll wreck you in the best way. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. Atlanta, Toronto, Nairobi, Rio, Seoul. Let's see how far this insanity travels in this brand new year. The auction house was Miami's most exclusive, where million-dollar deals happened with subtle nods and champagne flowed endlessly. Isadora Tavares moved through the crowd like she owned the room, her caramel brown skin glowing under crystal chandeliers, curves wrapped in a crimson dress that made every man turn twice. She wasn't here for attention. She was here for one thing. Lot 47, a Brazilian ceremonial mask from the 18th century, rare, priceless, and stolen from her family 15 years ago. The bidding started at $200,000. Issa raised her paddle without hesitation. Across the room, a man countered immediately. She glanced his way, and her breath caught. Devastatingly gorgeous didn't begin to cover it. Sharp jawline, dark eyes that could strip a woman bare from across the room. Black suit tailored to perfection. Tattoos peeked from his collar, intricate ink disappearing beneath expensive fabric like forbidden secrets. He wasn't looking at the mask. He was looking at her. She raised her paddle again. 300,000. He countered without breaking eye contact. 400. The sexual tension crackled across the room like lightning. Every bidder felt it, the auctioneer stammering slightly as he called her out numbers. Issa's heart raced, but she kept her face composed. This wasn't just about money. This was a battle, and she never lost battles. 500,000. The room went silent. The auctioneer's gavel hovered in midair. The man's lips curved into something between a smile and a challenge. Then slowly, deliberately, he lowered his paddle. "Surrender." "Sold to the lady in red," the auctioneer announced, voice breaking the spell. Issa released a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. She'd won. But when she looked back across the room, the man was already walking away, his absence somehow louder than his presence. 20 minutes later, she found him at the bar, or maybe he'd been waiting for her all along. Issa was trying to steady her nerves with wine when his voice came from directly behind her, smooth and low like aged whiskey. "You just cost me $500,000. She turned slowly, and up close he was even more dangerous. Those eyes weren't just dark, they were endless, and the way he looked at her made every nerve ending in her body come alive. "Then you should have bid higher," she said, proud that her voice didn't shake. He stepped closer, invading her space deliberately. She could smell his cologne now, something expensive and masculine that made her want to lean in. "I don't lose often. There's a first time for everything." "Is there?" His gaze dropped to her lips, then back up. "What's your name?" "Why do you want to know?" "Because I'm trying to decide if I should hate you or take you to bed." Heat flooded through her body. She set her wine glass down carefully, turning to face him fully. The bar suddenly felt too small, too hot. "Isadora, and you're young Hajun." His eyebrows lifted slightly. "You know me." "I know of you. There's a difference." "And what do you know?" "That you run the most exclusive supper club in Miami. That people pay obscene amounts of money for a seat at your table. That you're selective about your clientele." She paused, letting her eyes roam over him deliberately. "And that you're Korean, clearly successful and apparently not used to losing." His hand moved to her waist, fingers pressing into the silk of her dress. The touch sent electricity through her. You've done your homework. I always do my homework. Then you know I'm not someone you should be playing games with. She stepped even closer until their bodies were almost touching. She had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Who says I'm playing? The air between them ignited. His other hand came up to cup her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone. You're either very brave or very stupid. Maybe I'm both. He stared at her for 3 heartbeats. Then his voice dropped to something rough and hungry. My car. Now. They barely made it to the parking garage. The moment the elevator doors closed, he had her against the wall, mouth crashing onto hers, hands gripping her hips hard enough to bruise. She gasped into the kiss, shocked by the intensity, by how badly she wanted this. Her fingers tangled in his hair, pulling him closer, needing more. Fuck, he groaned against her lips. You taste like heaven and trouble. Which one are you hoping for? Both. His hands slid up her thigh, pushing her dress higher. She bit his lower lip in response, earning a growl that vibrated through her entire body. The elevator dinged and they stumbled out, him pulling her toward a sleek black car that probably cost more than most people's houses. He opened the back door and she climbed in without hesitation, her body making decisions her brain should have questioned. He followed, settling between her legs, and suddenly the expensive leather and tinted windows felt like their own private universe. Wait, he said, pulling back when her hands went to his belt. His chest was heaving, lips swollen from her kisses, eyes wild with desire. I need to know something first. What? Your full name? The request was oddly intimate, more intimate than what they were about to do. Why does it matter? Because I don't fuck strangers in the back of my car. His hand cupped her face gently, contrasting with the heat between them. Tell me your name, Isadora. Something in his voice made her heart squeeze. Isadora Tavares. He studied her face like he was memorizing it. Then he kissed her again, slower this time, deeper. When he pulled back, his voice was rough. Come home with me. I want to do this right. She should have said no, should have taken the mask she'd won and disappeared into the Miami night. But the way he looked at her, the way his hands held her like she was precious and dangerous all at once, made her whisper, yes. His penthouse was everything she expected. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Biscayne Bay, modern furniture that probably cost 6 figures, art on the walls that screamed wealth and taste. But she barely registered any of it because the moment the door closed, he was on her again. He unzipped her dress slowly, reverently, lips following the path of the zipper down her spine. She shivered under his touch, her dress pooling at her feet, leaving her in nothing but heels and lace. When she turned in his arms, his eyes darkened with raw hunger. Jesus Christ, he breathed. You're fucking perfect. She pushed his jacket off his shoulders, fingers working the buttons of his shirt. Stop talking. Make me. She kissed him hard, pouring all her frustration and desire and secret rage into it. Because this man, this beautiful, dangerous man, was connected to the worst moment of her life, and she was kissing him anyway. His shirt hit the floor, and she finally saw the tattoos fully. Intricate Korean designs covered his dangerous man was connected to the worst moment of her life, and she was kissing him anyway. His shirt hit the floor, and she finally saw the tattoos fully. Intricate Korean designs covered his chest and arms, dragons and flowers and symbols she didn't recognize, but found breathtaking. She traced them with trembling fingers, feeling his muscles tense under her touch. Bedroom, he murmured, voice strained. Now. He lifted her like she weighed nothing, her legs wrapping around his waist as he carried her through the penthouse. They fell into his bed together, all desperation and need. He kissed down her body slowly, worshiping every curve, every inch of her caramel skin. When his mouth found her breasts, she arched off the bed, fingers gripping his hair. Hajun, she gasped. Say it again. Hajun. He groaned against her skin, hands sliding down to remove her last piece of clothing. I want to hear you scream my name. And she did. When he finally pushed inside her, she cried out, overwhelmed by the sensation, by how perfectly he filled her. His eyes locked onto hers, dark and intense. Look at me, he demanded, voice rough. I want to see you when you fall apart. She kept her eyes open, watching him watch her, feeling more exposed than she'd ever felt. The intimacy was almost unbearable. They moved together like they'd done this 1,000 times, like their bodies knew each other's rhythms instinctively. When she finally shattered, his name on her lips, he followed seconds later, face buried in her neck. They lay tangled together afterward, breathing hard, hearts racing. His fingers traced lazy patterns on her back. The room smelled like sex and his cologne and something she couldn't name but wanted to remember forever. Stay, he murmured against her hair, already half asleep. Please stay. Okay, she whispered. She waited until his breathing evened out completely, until she was certain he was deep in sleep. Then she carefully extracted herself from his arms, pulling on his discarded shirt. It hung to her thighs, smelling like him. The penthouse was dark except for the city lights streaming through the windows, Miami glittering like scattered diamonds. She should leave, should take the mask and run. But she needed answers more than she needed safety. His office was at the end of a long hallway. She pushed the door open as quietly as possible, stepping inside. The space was sleek and masculine, all dark wood and expensive minimalism. A desk dominated one wall, bookshelves lined another, and on those shelves, scattered among leather-bound books and modern sculptures, were pieces of art. Her hands shook as she moved closer. Most were Korean, beautiful but unfamiliar. But then her eyes landed on a small carved figure tucked between two books. Wood, dark with age, Brazilian, 18th century. The world tilted. She recognized it immediately, had stared at photographs of it her entire childhood. It was a ceremonial figure from Bahia, part of a collection her great-great-grandfather had started that her family had built over generations. The collection her mother had died protecting. Issa picked it up with trembling hands, feeling the familiar grain of the wood, the delicate carving. She was 13 again, hiding in a closet while strange men tore through their house in Salvador, hearing her mother scream. Finding her body an hour later, broken and cold, the collection gone. 15 years she'd searched. 15 years of building connections in the art world, of following dead-end leads, of wondering if she'd ever find justice. And here it was, in the home of a man whose taste was still on her skin. Couldn't sleep? She spun around, nearly dropping the figure. Hajun stood in the doorway, shirtless, watching her, with an expression she couldn't read. How long had he been standing there? I was just looking around, she said, hating how her voice shook slightly. His eyes moved from her face to the figure in her hands, then back up. Something flickered in his gaze. Recognition? Suspicion? Find anything interesting? She forced herself to set it down casually. You have beautiful taste. This piece is incredible. Where did you get it? A client gave it to me. Payment for a favor. Must have been some favor. He crossed the room slowly, predatory. You're asking a lot of questions for someone who just stumbled in here by accident. I told you, I'm curious. Curiosity killed the cat, Isadora. Mahina. She held his gaze, her heart pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. Every instinct screamed to confront him, to demand he tell her everything. But she couldn't. Not yet. Because if he had this piece, he had access to the rest. He knew who'd stolen the collection, who'd killed her mother. And if she played this perfectly, if she could make him trust her, she could finally get everything she'd spent half her life searching for. So instead of attacking, she stepped closer, let her hands slide up his bare chest, feeling his heartbeat spike under her palm. Then I guess I like living dangerously. He caught her wrist, his grip firm but not painful. What are you really doing here? She looked up at him through her lashes. I'm exactly where I want to be. He studied her for a long moment, those dark eyes trying to see through her. Then he pulled her into a kiss that tasted like suspicion and desire. She kissed him back, pushing down the grief and rage threatening to choke her. He lifted her onto the desk, his hands sliding up her thighs. Tell me something true, Isadora. Her breath caught. Like what? Anything. One true thing before I make you forget your own name. She looked at him, this beautiful, dangerous man who held all her answers. I'm not who you think I am. He smiled against her neck, teeth grazing her pulse point. Good. Neither am I. Morning light filtered through the curtains when she woke. Hajun was already awake, propped on one elbow, watching her. His tattooed hand traced the curve of her hip possessively. You're staring, she murmured. I like looking at you. She sat up, the sheet pooling around her waist. Her body ached deliciously. Tell me about your business, the real one. His expression shifted, walls going up. I already told you, I run a supper club. And that's it? That's all you do? His jaw tightened. Why does it matter? Because I want to know you. No. He sat up, facing her. You want to know what I do? There's a difference. She reached out, tracing one of his tattoos. Then tell me what you do. I run an exclusive supper club, private, intimate, for people who value discretion and can afford luxury. And the art collecting? Is that just a hobby? Something flickered in his eyes. You could say that. Do you have more pieces like the one in your office? He caught her hand, stopping its exploration. Why are you so interested in my art collection, Isadora? Because I'm an art broker. It's what I do. I source rare pieces for private collectors. This was true. She'd built her legitimate career doing exactly that, using it as cover to search for her family's stolen collection. His expression changed, interest replacing suspicion. Is that so? I've been doing it for years. Started in Sao Paulo, moved to Miami 2 years ago. I have connections all over South America and Europe. And what brought you to that auction last night? A client wanted the mask, but you kept it for yourself. She smiled. I couldn't resist. It's a beautiful piece. He pulled her closer, his lips finding her neck. Maybe we could help each other. Her pulse jumped. How? I have clients who are always looking for specific pieces. And you have connections. His hands slid up her spine. We could be very good for each other, Isadora. This was it, her way in. I'd like that. He kissed her deeply, his hands already pushing her back into the bed. But as he moved over her, as she let him consume her again, one thought burned through everything else. She'd found him, the key to everything she'd been searching for. And she wasn't letting go until she had all the answers. Until she knew who killed her mother and made them pay. Even if destroying him destroyed her too. What are you thinking about? He murmured against her skin. She traced the tattoo over his heart. How dangerous this is. Having second thoughts? She looked up at him, let him see the fire in her eyes. You're playing a dangerous game, Yeon Hajun. He smiled, dark and devastating. Then we're perfectly matched. She pulled him down into a kiss, nails raking down his back. And she thought, yes, perfectly matched. Until one of them destroyed the other. I don't play games, she whispered against his mouth. I win them. His eyes darkened with desire and something else. Something that looked like recognition. Like he knew exactly what she was. Then let's see who wins, Isadora Tavares. 3 days later, Issa was back at Hajun's supper club. She told herself it was for information, that she needed to stay close, to learn his patterns, to figure out who he was working for. But the truth was simpler and more dangerous. She couldn't stay away. The club was hidden behind an unmarked door in Wynwood, accessible only to those who knew where to look. Inside, it was intimate and exclusive, maybe 20 seats total, each table separated by silk screens that created the illusion of privacy. The food was Korean fusion, the kind of culinary art that made people pay thousands for a single meal. Hajun found her at the bar. He didn't look surprised. Couldn't resist coming back? He asked, sliding onto the stool next to her. The food's supposed to be incredible. That's not why you're here. She turned to face him, their knees touching. No. His hand found her thigh under the bar, fingers pressing into her skin through the thin fabric of her dress. You're here because you can't stop thinking about me. Her breath caught. You're arrogant. I'm right. She hated that he was. Hated that she'd spent 3 days replaying every moment in his penthouse, every touch, every word. Hated that her body came alive the moment he was near. Maybe I just want to discuss that business proposition, she said. His lips curved. My office, now. They barely made it through the door before he had her against the wall, mouth on hers, hands everywhere. She gasped into the kiss, her fingers working his belt, needing him with an urgency that should have terrified her. We have to stop meeting like this, she breathed as he lifted her, her legs wrapping around his waist. Why? He carried her to his desk, sweeping papers aside. I like it. Because someone might... Her words dissolved into a moan as he pushed inside her, both of them still half-dressed, desperate and reckless. Let them hear, he growled against her neck. Let everyone know you're mine. The possessiveness should have made her angry. Instead, it made her clench around him, nails raking down his back through his shirt. They moved together frantically, the desk creaking beneath them, her gasps mixing with his groans. When she shattered, his name on her lips, he followed seconds later, face buried in her neck. They stayed like that, breathing hard, tangled together. This is insane, she whispered. I know. We barely know each other. He pulled back to look at her, brushing hair from her face. Then let's change that. Have dinner with me. A real date. Her heart twisted. Hajun. Tomorrow night, here. I'll cook for you myself. She should have said no. Should have kept this purely physical, purely strategic. But the way he looked at her, like she was something precious instead of a threat, made her whisper, okay. The next night, he closed the club early. Just for them. He cooked while she sat at the bar, watching his hands move with practiced precision. The sexual tension was constant, every glance charged. But there was something else now, something tender. Where did you learn to cook like this, she asked. My Halmani, my grandmother. She raised me and my sister after our parents died. He plated the food carefully. She believed food was love made visible. She sounds wonderful. She was. Past tense. His hands stilled for a moment. She died 5 years ago. Cancer. Issa's chest tightened. I'm sorry. He brought the plates over, sitting next to her instead of across. What about you? Any family? This was dangerous territory, but she needed him to trust her. My mother died when I was 13. It's just me now. His hand found hers. How did she die? She was killed during a robbery. Not quite a lie, not quite the truth. His fingers tightened around hers. Isadora. It was a long time ago. She forced a smile. Tell me about your sister. His expression shifted, something vulnerable breaking through. Seoyun, she's 23. She's been sick for 2 years now, a rare genetic disease that's destroying her organs slowly. Is there treatment? There's an experimental program in Switzerland. It's her only chance. His voice cracked slightly. But it costs $3 million. Insurance won't cover it. Issa's heart stopped. $3 million. The same amount the final sale of her family's collection would bring. Hajun! That's why I do what I do. The art deals, the side businesses. Everything goes to her treatment fund. He looked at her, raw and honest. I'd do anything to save her. Anything. She wanted to hate him, wanted to see a monster. But all she saw was a brother willing to destroy himself to save his sister. Just like she was willing to destroy herself to avenge her mother. Let me help, she heard herself say. What? You said you move art for clients. I told you I'm a broker. I have connections, expertise. Let me authenticate your pieces. Help you get better prices. She squeezed his hand. Let me help you save your sister. He stared at her for a long moment. Then he pulled her into his lap, kissing her deeply. Why would you do that? Because the collection you're selling belonged to my family. Because I need to find out who you're working for. Because when I destroy them, I need you to survive. Because I care about you, she said instead, and realized with horror that it was partially true. He kissed her again, slower this time, tender. You're incredible. No, she thought, I'm a liar using your tragedy to get what I want. But she kissed him back anyway. Over the next week, they became inseparable. He gave her access to his records, to the pieces waiting to be sold. She spent hours examining them, authenticating each one, her heart breaking as she recognized piece after piece from her family's collection. A ceremonial bowl from Bahia, a carved mask from the Yoruba tradition, ancient pottery her great-grandfather had sourced from indigenous communities. Each one a memory, each one bought with her mother's blood. And through it all, she fell deeper for Hajun, the way he brought her coffee in the morning, how he'd stop in the middle of sex to make sure she was okay. The vulnerability he showed only to her. They made love everywhere, his penthouse, his office. Once in the empty club after hours, her bent over a table while he took her from behind, both of them trying to be quiet and failing. The sexual tension never faded. It only grew stronger, more consuming. I'm obsessed with you, he admitted one night, both of them tangled in his sheets. It scares me. She traced the dragon tattoo on his chest. Why does it scare you? Because obsession makes you weak. And in my world, weakness gets you killed. Then maybe you needed to get out of your world. He laughed bitterly. I can't. Not until Soyun's safe. And after? He looked at her, something fierce in his eyes. After, maybe we could have something real. Something that doesn't involve secrets and danger. Guilt crashed through her. Hajun, I know it's fast. I know we barely know each other. But I've never felt like this before. He cupped her face. Tell me you feel it too. She did. God help her. She did. I feel it. He kissed her like she was oxygen, like he'd die without her. And she kissed him back, wondering how she was going to survive destroying him. The breakthrough came on day 9. She was alone in his office going through the final inventory list when she found it, a file buried in his desk drawer. Inside were documents showing the final sale was happening in 5 days. All remaining pieces would go to one buyer. Final transaction, $3 million. But there was no name, just a numbered account in a meeting location. Her hands shook as she photographed everything with her phone. 5 days. She had 5 days to figure out who killed her mother. Find something interesting? She jumped, nearly dropping her phone. Hajun stood in the doorway, but his expression was different, colder. Just checking the inventory, she said, sliding her phone into her pocket. He walked in slowly, closing the door behind him. Issa, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Her heart raced. Okay. Who are you really? Time stopped. What do you mean? Dae Young did some digging, found some interesting information about you. He crossed his arms. Your full name is Isidora Tavares Kimathi. Your mother was Elena Tavares, and 15 years ago, your family's art collection was stolen. The same collection I've been selling. The world tilted. She opened her mouth, but no words came. So I'll ask again. His voice was dangerously quiet. Who are you really? And what the fuck are you doing in my life? She could lie, could deny everything. But looking at his face, at the betrayal written across it, she couldn't. It's true, she whispered. That collection was my family's. My mother was murdered for it, and I've spent 15 years trying to find it. His jaw clenched. So this whole time, everything between us, it was a lie? No. She stood, moving toward him. Not everything. Hajun, I didn't know you were involved when we met. I swear, the auction was coincidence. But you knew after. That first night, you saw the piece in my office. And you stayed anyway. You used me. Tears burned her eyes. Yes, at first. But then I got to know you and your sister and what? You fell for me? He laughed bitterly. How convenient. It's not like that. Then what is it like, Isadora? He stepped closer, pain and anger warring in his eyes. Tell me the truth. For once, just tell me the fucking truth. She took a shaky breath. I came to Miami to find my family's collection, to find who killed my mother. When I saw that piece in your office, I knew you were connected. So yes, I stayed to get information. I used you. Tears spilled down her cheeks. But I also fell in love with you, and I don't know how to reconcile those two things. He stared at her. You love me? Yes. But you were going to destroy me anyway. She couldn't deny it. I don't want your sister to die, Hajun. That's why I offered to help, so you'd get the money for her treatment. But I also need to find who's buying the collection. They're the ones who ordered the theft, who killed my mother. He turned away, hands running through his hair. This is fucked up. I know. I should throw you out, should never see you again. I know. He spun back to face her. But I can't, because despite everything, despite the lies, I love you too. And I hate myself for it. Her breath caught. Hajun, we have 5 days until the sale, he said, voice hard. 5 days to figure out if we're going to destroy each other or work together. Work together? You want to know who's buying the collection. I want to save my sister. Maybe we can do both. He stepped closer, gripping her arms. But no more lies, no more secrets. From here on out, we're completely honest with each other. Deal? She nodded, tears still falling. Deal. He kissed her then, hard and desperate and angry. She kissed him back the same way, both of them pouring their pain and fear and love into it. When they finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. This is going to end badly. I know, but we're doing it anyway. Yes. He pulled her close, holding her like she might disappear. And she held him back, wondering if love was supposed to feel like drowning. Outside the office, Daejong stood in the hallway, phone pressed to his ear. Yes, she knows, and he knows she knows. What do you want me to do? The voice on the other end was cool, feminine. Nothing. Let them think they're working together. It'll make the end game so much sweeter. And if they actually find out it's you? A soft laugh. They won't. Not until it's far too late. The next 3 days were a strange combination of war planning and falling deeper in love. Issa moved into Hajun's penthouse. Not because he asked, but because neither of them could stand to be apart. They worked side by side, going through every detail of the upcoming sale, trying to find any clue about the buyer's identity. And in between, they consumed each other. Come here, Hajun said one afternoon, pulling her away from the laptop where she'd been studying transaction records. She was wearing one of his shirts and nothing else, hair piled messily on top of her head. I'm working, she protested, but her body was already responding to the heat in his eyes. You've been working for 6 hours straight. He spun her chair around, stepping between her legs. Take a break. Hajun, we only have 2 days. He silenced her with a kiss, his hands sliding under the shirt to grip her waist. 2 days means we have time, he murmured against her lips. And I need you, right now. She melted into him, her arguments dissolving as his mouth moved down her neck. He lifted her onto the desk, scattering papers everywhere, and she didn't care. Nothing. Days means we have time, he murmured against her lips. And I need you, right now. She melted into him, her arguments dissolving as his mouth moved down her neck. He lifted her onto the desk, scattering papers everywhere, and she didn't care. Nothing mattered except his hands on her skin, his mouth claiming hers. The way he made her forget everything except this moment. I love you, he breathed as he pushed inside her, both of them still half-clothed, too desperate to wait. God, Issa, I love you so much. I love you too, she gasped, wrapping her legs around him, pulling him deeper. I love you. They moved together frantically, the desk creaking beneath them. When she came, crying out his name, he followed seconds later, his face buried in her neck. They stayed tangled together, breathing hard. We're supposed to be planning, she said weakly. We are planning. This is part of it. How? He pulled back to look at her, brushing sweaty hair from her face. Because I can't think straight when I haven't touched you, and you can't either. So this, he kissed her softly, is necessary. She laughed despite everything. You're impossible. You love it? She did. God help her. She did. That night, lying in bed together, Hajun traced the curve of her hip absently. Tell me about your mother, he said quietly. Not how she died, who she was. Issa's chest tightened. She rarely talked about her mother, the memories too painful. But with Hajun wrapped in his arms, she found herself wanting to share. She was brilliant, strong. She built that collection over 20 years, piece by piece. Not for money or status, but because she believed in preserving history. Issa's voice cracked. She wanted to open a museum one day, make it accessible to everyone, especially Afro-Brazilian communities who rarely saw their heritage celebrated. Hajun's arms tightened around her. She sounds amazing. She was, and someone killed her for wanting to share instead of hoard. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I was 13, Hajun. I hid in a closet while they murdered her. I heard everything. Jesus, Issa. I've spent 15 years trying to find them, trying to make them pay, and now we're so close. She turned in his arms, looking up at him. But I don't want your sister to die for my revenge. We'll find another way to get her treatment. He cupped her face, thumbs wiping away her tears. We're going to get both. Seoyun's treatment and justice for your mother, I promise you. How? I don't know yet, but we will. He kissed her forehead. You're not alone anymore, Issa. Whatever happens, we face it together. She pulled him into a kiss that was equal parts desperation and love. They made love slowly that night, tender and aching, both knowing the next 2 days would change everything. The morning of the authentication, Issa stood in Hajun's office staring at the collection laid on before her. 15 pieces total, every single one from her family. Seeing them all together after 15 years made her knees weak. Hey, Hajun's arms came around her from behind. You okay? No, she whispered. These were supposed to be in a museum. People were supposed to see them, learn from them. Instead, they've been hidden away, sold like contraband. After tonight, we'll make it right. I swear. She turned in his arms. Promise me something. Anything. If this goes wrong, if we have to choose between your sister and my revenge, choose your sister. Always. His jaw clenched. Issa. Promise me, Hajun. Seoyun is innocent. She deserves to live. My mother is already gone. Promise me. He stared at her for a long moment, then pulled her into a fierce kiss. I promise, but it won't come to that. The authentication took 3 hours. Issa handled each piece carefully, professionally, even as her heart shattered with every touch. These were her heritage, her history, her mother's blood, and she was helping sell them. But it was the only way to get close to the buyer. Hajun stayed by her side the entire time, his hand on her back, his presence steadying her. When she finally finished documenting everything, she turned to him with tears streaming down her face. I'm done. He pulled her into his arms, holding her while she sobbed. You're so strong, he murmured into her hair. Your mother would be so proud. She'd hate this. No, she'd understand. She'd want you to survive, to live, to love. He pulled back to look at her, just like I do. She kissed him desperately, needing to feel something besides grief. They ended up against the wall, his hands under her skirt, both of them seeking comfort in each other's bodies. It was fast and rough and exactly what they needed. The buyer arrives in 2 hours, Hajun said afterward, both of them still breathing hard. You ready? No, but let's do this anyway. They cleaned up, got dressed. Issa wore a black dress, elegant and professional. Armor. Hajun was in a suit, looking every inch the dangerous businessman he was. They looked like a power couple. They felt like they were going to war. Daijong arrived first, setting up the meeting room in the club. Everything's ready, he said. Then to Issa, you sure about this? No, she said honestly, but I'm doing it anyway. He nodded, something like respect in his eyes. For what it's worth, I think you're good for him. Even though I lied? Everyone lies. What matters is what you do after. He glanced at Hajun. He's different with you. Happier. That's worth something. Before Issa could respond, Hajun's phone buzzed. They're here. Issa's heart hammered. This was it. 15 years of searching, and she was about to come face to face with her mother's killer. Hajun squeezed her hand. Together, he said quietly. Together, she echoed. The door opened. A woman walked in, and Issa's entire world stopped. She was elegant, maybe mid-50s, dressed in expensive clothes that screamed old money. Dark hair pulled into a sleek bun, cold eyes that swept the room appraisingly, and Issa recognized her immediately. No, she breathed, the word barely audible. Hajun glanced at her, confused. Issa, what? The woman's gaze landed on Issa and she smiled. Slow, predatory. Hello, Isadora, she said, voice smooth as silk. My, you've grown into your mother's beauty. What a shame Elena never got to see it. Issa couldn't breathe, couldn't move, because this woman, this monster, was Vanessa Colo, her mother's business partner, her mother's best friend, the woman who'd helped build the collection, the woman Issa's mother had trusted with everything. You, Issa whispered, the word dripping with venom. It was you. Vanessa's smile widened. Guilty, though I prefer to think of it as a necessary business decision. Hajun stepped forward, confused. You two know each other? Oh, we go way back, Vanessa said pleasantly. I worked with dear Elena for almost 20 years, built that collection together, until she got these ridiculous ideas about donating it to museums. Her lip curled in disgust. Can you imagine millions of dollars worth of art given away to the masses? It was an insult to everything we'd worked for. So you killed her, Issa said, her voice shaking with rage. You murdered your best friend over money. Not just money, darling. Legacy, power, control. Vanessa examined her manicured nails. Elena was weak. She let sentiment cloud her judgment. I simply removed the obstacle. Issa lunged for her. Hajun caught her around the waist, holding her back as she screamed, I'll fucking kill you. Temper, Vanessa tisked. You're so much like your mother. Same foolish idealism, same self-righteousness. Her eyes hardened. And now you're in my way, just like she was. The deal's off, Hajun said coldly. Get out. Vanessa laughed. Oh, I don't think so. You see, I've been planning this reunion for quite some time, ever since I discovered little Isadora was sniffing around my collection. She pulled out her phone, showing them a photo. It was Shoyun, in a hospital bed, unconscious. Hajun's face went white. What did you do? Nothing yet, but I paid the hospital staff very well to ensure her breathing tube could be disconnected at a moment's notice. Vanessa's smile was poisonous. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to complete this sale. I'm going to take my collection. And if you cooperate, your sister lives. If you don't, she shrugged. Well, these things happen in hospitals all the time. You fucking bitch, Hajun snarled. Complete the sale, Mr. Yan. You have 1 hour to decide. Vanessa headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Isadora? Your mother's last words were, tell Issa I love her. I thought you should know. Before I killed her, of course. The door closed behind her. Silence crashed down like a bomb. Then Issa collapsed, a scream tearing from her throat. Hajun caught her, both of them sinking to the floor. She sobbed against his chest, 15 years of grief and rage pouring out. I'm sorry, he kept saying, holding her tight. God, Issa, I'm so sorry. When she finally could breathe again, she pulled back. Her face was tear-stained, but her eyes blazed with fury. We can't let her win. My sister. I know, and we're going to save her. Issa stood, helping Hajun up. But we're also going to destroy Vanessa. We're going to burn her whole world down. Hajun stared at her. Then slowly he smiled. It was dark and dangerous and full of promise. What's the plan? She looked at him, this beautiful, dangerous man she loved, the man who'd become her partner, her ally, her everything. We give her exactly what she wants. And then, her smile matched his, and then we take everything. Dae-jung, who'd been silent in the corner, stepped forward. I'm in, whatever you need. Ha-jun pulled Issa close, kissing her hard. Together? Together, she confirmed. Let's end this, bitch. 1 hour. That's all they had to figure out how to save Seo-yoon and destroy Vanessa without getting everyone killed in the process. Issa paced Ha-jun's office like a caged animal, her mind racing through scenarios and discarding them just as fast. Ha-jun sat at his desk, head in his hands, looking more broken than she'd ever seen him. We could call the police, Dae-jung suggested. And say what? Issa snapped. That a respected art collector threatened us? She's covered her tracks too well. By the time they investigate, Seo-yoon will be dead. We could run, take Seo-yoon and disappear. She's on a ventilator, Dae-jung. We can't just move her. And Vanessa has resources everywhere. Ha-jun's voice was hollow. There's no running from this. Issa stopped pacing, staring at the collection still laid out in the room. Her mother's legacy. 15 pieces that had cost Elena Tavares her life, that were now being used to threaten another innocent woman. And suddenly, she knew exactly what to do. We give her the collection, Issa said quietly. Both men looked at her like she'd lost her mind. Are you insane? Ha-jun stood. After everything, we give her the collection, Issa repeated, turning to face them. Exactly what she wants. We complete the sale, take the money, save Seo-yoon. Vanessa walks away thinking she's won. That's it? We just let her win? The pain in Ha-jun's voice cut through her. No. Issa's smile was cold and sharp as a blade. We let her think she's won, and then we destroy her. Understanding dawned in Ha-jun's eyes. How? I have a contact in Sao Paulo, a forger who owes me a favor. She can replicate these pieces in 48 hours if I get her detailed photographs and measurements. Issa's mind was already working through logistics. We give Vanessa the forgeries. She won't know the difference until she tries to sell them herself. And the real pieces? Issa looked at the collection, her mother's life's work, and made the hardest decision of her life. I destroy them, every single one. I burn them to ash. Issa, no. It's the only way, Ha-jun. Don't you see? Vanessa killed my mother for these pieces. She's threatening your sister for them. As long as they exist, they're a weapon. Her voice broke. My mother wanted them in a museum, accessible to everyone. But if I can't give her that, then I'll make sure Vanessa never gets them either. Ha-jun crossed to her, gripping her shoulders. Your mother's legacy. My mother's legacy is me. It's the life I build. It's not these objects. Tears streamed down her face. And I'd rather burn every piece than let that monster profit from my mother's death. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. Okay. We do it your way. There's one problem, Dae-jung said quietly. The forgeries and photography will cost at least $100,000. Rush job, that much. Where do we get that kind of money in 48 hours? Issa pulled back from Ha-jun. I have it. My savings, my investments, everything I've built over the past 15 years. She laughed bitterly. Turns out I've been saving up to destroy my own revenge. So, it's just money, Ha-jun. We'll make more. Your sister's life is worth everything. He kissed her then, desperate and grateful and terrified. I love you so fucking much. I love you too. Now let's burn this bitch's world down. The next 48 hours were a blur of frantic activity. Issa photographed every piece from multiple angles, took detailed measurements, documented every crack and imperfection. She contacted her forger in Sao Paulo, wired the money, arranged for expedited shipping. And through it all, she and Ha-jun barely slept, barely ate. They made love frantically in stolen moments, against the office wall at 3 a.m, in the shower at dawn, in his bed before passing out from exhaustion. Each time felt like it might be the last, like they were trying to memorize each other's bodies before everything fell apart. What if this doesn't work? Hajun whispered one night, both of them tangled in his sheets. What if we lose everything? Then we lose together. She kissed his chest, right over his heart. I'd rather have one more day with you than a lifetime of safety without you. He rolled on top of her, capturing her mouth in a kiss that tasted like desperation and forever. When this is over, marry me. She froze. What? I'm serious. When Seoyun is safe and Vanessa's destroyed, marry me. Build a life with me. Have everything with me. Fresh tears spilled down her temples. Yes, God, yes. They made love slowly that night, savoring every touch, every kiss, both knowing that the next day would change everything. The forgeries arrived 36 hours later. They were perfect. Even Issa, who knew every piece intimately, had trouble telling them apart from the originals. Her forger had done exceptional work. Now what? Daejong asked. Now we set up the exchange. Tomorrow night, we give Vanessa the fakes, take the money. In the moment that transaction clears, I destroy the real pieces on a live stream directly to her. Hajun's eyes widened. You're going to let her watch? I want her to know. I want her to see her victory turn to ashes. Literally. Issa's smile was vicious. And I want her to know that Elaine Tavares' daughter beat her. The exchange was set for Vanessa's private yacht, anchored off Miami Beach. Neutral territory. Witnesses. Security. Everything designed to make them feel trapped. Issa and Hajun arrived together, the forgeries packed carefully in specialized cases. Issa wore a red dress, the same color she'd worn the night they met. War paint. Vanessa was waiting on the deck, champagne in hand, looking like she'd already won. Right on time. I do appreciate punctuality. Where's the money? Hajun's voice was ice. Business before pleasure. I like it. Vanessa gestured to a briefcase. 3 million, as agreed. Have your people verify it. Daejong checked the briefcase, running bills through a scanner. He nodded to Hajun. And prove that you'll leave my sister alone? Hajun demanded. Vanessa showed him her phone, a video call connected to the hospital. Seoyun was there, still unconscious, but stable. The moment the money transfers, I'll make a call. Your sister will receive the best care money can buy. You have my word. Your word means nothing, Issa spat. Perhaps, but I'm a businesswoman. Dead inventory is bad for profit. Vanessa's smile was cold. The collection, please. Hajun and Daejong brought forward the cases. Vanessa's expert examined each piece carefully. Issa held her breath, praying the forgeries would pass inspection. After 15 agonizing minutes, the expert nodded to Vanessa. Authentic. Relief and rage flooded through Issa in equal measure. They'd done it. Go. Excellent. Vanessa transferred the money. Pleasure doing business with you. Now get off my yacht. They were halfway to the dock when Issa stopped. She pulled out her phone, opening a video call. Vanessa! The older woman turned, annoyed. What now? I wanted you to see something. Issa turned the phone camera around. On the screen was a storage unit. Inside were the real pieces of the collection, arranged carefully. And standing next to them was a woman Issa trusted, her forger from Sao Paulo, who'd flown in specifically for this. What is this? Vanessa's face paled. This is every piece of my mother's collection. The real collection. What you just bought? Forgeries. Very expensive, very convincing forgeries. Issa's voice was steady despite the tears streaming down her face. You killed my mother for these pieces. You threatened an innocent woman for them. So now I'm going to show you exactly what they're worth. No. Issa nodded to the woman on screen. She struck a match. No! Vanessa screamed. Lunging forward, her security grabbed her, holding her back. On the phone screen, the woman dropped the match. Fire erupted, consuming the collection. Centuries of history, of culture, of her mother's dreams, all turning to ash. Issa watched it burn, tears falling, but her voice never wavered. You killed her for nothing, Vanessa. It's all nothing now, just like you. Vanessa collapsed, screaming in rage and disbelief. Her security team didn't know what to do. The collection she'd murdered for, had built her empire on, was burning. Hajun pulled Issa close as they watched the last pieces crumble to ash. "It's done," he whispered. "Not quite." Issa ended the call, then made another one. "FBI, I'd like to report an art smuggling operation, and I have all the evidence you need." The next 6 hours were chaos. FBI agents swarming the yacht. Vanessa being arrested, screaming about lawyers and false accusations. But Issa had kept copies of everything. Transaction records, communications, proof of the stolen collection's provenance, and Dae-jung had been recording their conversations with Vanessa, including her confession about killing Elena. It was over. Hajun held Issa as they gave their statements, both of them exhausted beyond measure. When they finally made it back to his penthouse, dawn was breaking over Miami. "We did it," Issa said, barely believing it. "She's actually going to prison. Seo-yoon's treatment is paid for. The FBI is releasing the funds from Vanessa's seized accounts as restitution." Hajun pulled her close. "It's really over." They fell into bed, too tired for anything but holding each other. But just as Issa was drifting off, Hajun's phone rang. He answered it, listened, then his entire body went rigid. "What? No, what's wrong?" Issa sat up, fear clutching her chest. He hung up, staring at nothing. "That was my lawyer. The FBI wants me to testify against Vanessa's entire operation. Every deal I ever made, every piece I moved." His voice cracked. "They're offering immunity if I cooperate fully. But Issa, the things I've done, I could still go to prison for years if I don't take the deal." Her heart stopped. "So take it. Testify. We'll figure it out. There's a condition. I have to turn myself in now. Go into federal custody until the trial." He looked at her, devastated. "I could be gone for months, maybe a year. I'll wait. Issa, I'll wait for you, Hajun. I don't care how long it takes." She cupped his face, forcing him to look at her. "We've come this far. I'm not losing you now." He kissed her desperately, both of them clinging to each other. They made love one more time, slow and aching and full of everything they couldn't say. When it was over, they lay wrapped around each other, neither wanting to let go. "I have to go," he finally whispered. "The FBI is sending a car in an hour. Then we have an hour." They spent it memorizing each other, every touch, every kiss, every whispered promise. When the knock came at the door, Issa thought her heart would shatter. "I love you," Hajun said, holding her face in his hands. "No matter what happens, I love you. I love you too. Come back to me. I will. I swear I will." And then he was gone. Issa stood in his empty penthouse, surrounded by the life they'd built together, and finally let herself break. She collapsed on the floor, sobbing until she had nothing left. But when the sun fully rose, she got up. She washed her face. She started making calls. If Hajun was going to sacrifice everything to destroy Vanessa, then Issa was going to make sure he had something beautiful to come back to. 3 months passed, then 6, then 9. Issa rebuilt her life piece by piece. She started a new business, a legitimate art gallery focused on Afro-Brazilian artists. She visited Seo-yoon in the hospital, watching the young woman slowly recover, getting stronger every day. And she waited for Hajun. They talked when they could, brief phone calls, letters that she read until the pages wore thin. He was testifying, cooperating fully, and according to his lawyer, it was going well. Vanessa's entire empire was crumbling. "I miss you," he told her during one call. "Every fucking day. I miss you. I miss you too. But we're almost there. Just a little longer. Tell me about the gallery." So she did. She told him about the artists she was featuring, about the openings she was planning, about the life she was building for them. And with every word, she felt him smiling through the phone. 1 year and 2 months after he turned himself in, Issa's phone rang. "Miss Tavares, this is Agent Morrison with the FBI. I wanted to inform you that Mr. Yeon's cooperation has been invaluable. Miss Kolo has been sentenced to life in prison without parole for murder, art theft, and racketeering. And Mr. Yan is being released today. The phone slipped from her hand. She ran. She didn't know where she was going at first, just that she needed to move. But her feet carried her to the place where everything had started, the auction house where they'd first met. And there, standing outside in the Miami sun, was Hajun. He looked thinner, tired, but when he saw her, his face transformed. That devastating smile that had captivated her from across a room now lit up his entire being. Issa ran to him. He caught her, spinning her around, both of them crying and laughing. "You came back," she sobbed into his neck. "I promised, didn't I?" He set her down, cupping her face. "I'll always come back to you." She kissed him desperately, pouring a year's worth of missing him into it. People walking by smiled at them. At this couple so clearly in love they couldn't stand to be apart for even a second. When they finally broke apart, Hajun dropped to one knee right there on the sidewalk. "I asked you this once, in a moment of fear. Now I'm asking, in a moment of joy. Isadora Tavares, will you marry me? Will you build a life with me? Will you have everything with me?" "Yes," she said, not even hesitating. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." He stood, lifting her off her feet, kissing her again. And Issa thought about her mother, about the collection, about everything they lost and everything they gained. Her mother's legacy wasn't in objects. It was in this, in love, in fighting for what was right, in building something beautiful from ashes. Lovies, if your heart isn't in pieces right now, you didn't feel the story deep enough. Happy New Year from all of us at Afro-Seoul TV. What a way to start 2026, right? Between two worlds, beyond all borders, we promised you tearjerkers, heartbreakers, and game changers. And honey, we delivered. Comment below, tell us where you're celebrating the new year and watching from New York, London, Dubai, Cape Town, Tokyo. Let's see how far Issa and Hajun's love traveled to start your year right. And if you're still breathing after that ending, smash that like button because you know you felt every second of this madness. Welcome home, lovies. This is what we do. 2 years later, Issa stood in her gallery, surrounded by vibrant artwork celebrating Afro-Brazilian culture. Hajun came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist, and she leaned back against him with a contented sigh. "How's the exhibition planning going?" he asked, kissing her temple. "Beautifully. We're featuring 15 new artists next month." She turned in his arms. 15, like the 15 pieces that brought us together. "You mean the 15 pieces that almost destroyed us?" "Same thing," she smiled. "Your sister called. She's flying in next week with her new boyfriend." "Seoyun has a boyfriend?" Hajun's protective brother instincts immediately activated. "Who is he? What does he do? Is he good enough for her?" Issa laughed, the sound filling the gallery. "You'll interrogate him when he gets here. For now, just be happy she's healthy enough to date." His expression softened. "I am. Every day, I'm grateful she's alive." He pulled Issa closer. "And I'm grateful for you, for fighting for us, for waiting for me. I'd wait forever for you. You won't have to. I'm not going anywhere." He kissed her softly. "We've got the rest of our lives, meu amor." She looked around the gallery, at the life they'd built from the ruins of their past. Her mother's dream of making art accessible was alive here, just in a different form. And Hajun's sister was thriving, studying art history and helping Issa curate exhibitions. From tragedy and revenge and impossible choices, they'd created something beautiful, something real, something theirs. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you too, always." Outside the gallery, Miami hummed with life, and inside, wrapped in each other's arms, Issa and Hajun had everything they'd ever fought for. Between two worlds, beyond all borders, they'd found home.